Hello, Internet! Gino, that Pinguino Grieco here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and today it's time to once again get balls deep in NBA facts. Ball deep. So, man, it's hard to say that opening and not feel like a jerk.
It's your fault. It is your fault. You're the one who picked the title, and now, like a dog that has wet itself, you have to live with the puddle that you're sitting in.
I do.
You've sown the wind, Gino, and now you reap the whirlwind.
But deep listens, ballin' is a term that people. It just worked. Maybe I just need to announce it in a less overt way to make myself feel better.
We could just do like deep listens coming in from deep. Like, you know,
ball
deep. I don't know.
The first podcast that we did that was NBA related, you made a Marianas Trench reference. I like that. But now we have to do this
crass
bad metaphor.
This crass metaphor. Are you saying that this show is going downhill? How dare you? Those voices you hear are Pete, the Sixers are good again, Busby.
What's going on, everybody? They are good. As much as I hate Jimmy Butler, both professionally and I would imagine personally, although I've never spoken with him, the Sixers are good and relevant at the moment.
And that other... Oh, go ahead.
Yep, no, fun basketball fact for this one. So I think we're all familiar, I assume so, with the story of Latrell Sprewell choking his coach.
Yes.
PJ Carlesimo.
Yes. My mom was at that game when that happened.
Really?
It was insane. Yeah, my mom has always been a Warriors fan and will tell you her test of are you a true Warrior fan is can you name a player from when we won our championship back in the 70s? The second step is what are the letters from Run TMC? And then her third quiz, if you can pass, and then she determines if you're a real Warriors fan, is name two players from the We Believe era. And 90% of the time, no one can pass that test.
I could do We Believe. Maybe I could do the championship. Was Rick Barry on that?
Yes.
Hey, I don't think I could do TMC, though. Regardless. Let me finish my fact, and then we can review this.
Yes.
So my favorite part of that story is that apparently Sprewell choked him for 15 seconds before anybody intervened.
That's so many seconds.
I know. That is a lot of seconds to choke somebody. And everybody was just like, yep, this is what Spree's doing. Nuts.
So is he starting to turn purple at that point? That's pretty long to choke a man.
Either like he's I mean, it's a very long time, but Spree must also be very bad at choking people. Should not take that long to render somebody unconscious.
Fuck.
What is PJ Carlesimo doing these days?
Don't know.
We can only hope he's unemployed. Man, I don't think I could. So Baron Davis, and was Al Harrington on that team?
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Steven Jackson. Captain
and Stack Jack. Yep.
Okay. Monta Ellis, if
was
you wanted
there?
that one. Yes, it was Monta Ellis and Baron Davis. Those are my two go-tos.
If you want to add to the Warriors quiz, just ask Monta Ellis, what does Monta Ellis have? And then Monta has it all is the answer. Well, that other voice.
Steph Curry over him, I'll never know.
Yeah. That other voice you hear is Chris ZombiePie. The Kings are good for once. Redacted.
I'll take it, as we'll talk about later when we get to our bit about the New York Knicks. I now join my fellow Knicks fans in solidarity in saying that, you know, things are good for your team when the only thing you have the only positivity you can look forward to is you have players in the Rising Stars Challenge. But, yeah we got 4 players.
Wait, you got 4 players on the Rising Stars Challenge?
We got 3. We have 2 in the Team US, and then we have the Bogdan that no one wants on the world team.
Oh, man. Well,
that's a lot of Kings.
That is a lot of Kings. So, shall we start with the topical, or shall we start with the review for this episode? Because today... Oh, we do have an email, correct, ZP?
Oh, that's right. All right.
Let's start with emails as we usually do. Reminder, you can get in touch with the show, DeepListensPod, at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We've got comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast at gmail.com. But this one comes in from ZP's postage,
Yes, this was sent to me as a PM on Giant Bomb. The user wishes to remain anonymous, so we will honor that.
That's fair.
But it's a funny question because I think when I gave it to Gino, he started laughing. But basically, the email was the user that wishes to remain anonymous normally listens to the video game themed podcasts and started listening to our NBA podcast out of curiosity and says, I don't know very much I don't really follow basketball, but one thing I'm learning by osmosis is that Dwight Howard must be the worst basketball player in the NBA because you make fun of him on every single podcast.
Well, and
what does it mean? No, wait.
Go ahead.
What does it mean when all of you say the problem with Dwight Howard is he's Dwight Howard? So that's the question.
So worst means a lot of different things in different contexts. He is very much not the worst player at basketball in the NBA.
Objectively, he is actually good at basketball. If you approach Dwight Howard objectively, yeah, he's still good at basketball.
He's still mostly good at basketball. Now, the problems with Dwight Howard are personality and also style of play. Because Dwight Howard, in a perfect world, would just kind of play a lot of defense, rebound, and just set screens and catch occasional lob dunks.
He'd be Tyson Chandler 2.0.
He'd be Tyson Chandler, but better. Yeah. Would be what his ideal. And that was what he kind of was when he played for Orlando and was at the peak of his career. But
defensively, at his peak, he was dominant. Three-time Defensive Player of the Year award. He was up there with maybe Ben Wallace in terms of being a dominant defensive center player.
Yeah, he was the best defensive player in the league for a good long while. See, the problem is Shaquille O'Neal made fun of him a lot. And I believe that this is all Shaquille O'Neal's fault. Because Shaq kept saying you can't be the best center in the league if you can't post people up. Which, for those who do not know, posting someone up is kind of when you stand near the hoop with your back to the hoop, someone will just throw you the ball, and then you just basically dribble back them down until you're in dunking range, and then you dunk on them. Or, you can take a fall-away shot, or you can throw a jump hook, but you're basically very close to the hoop, making offensive moves in tight spaces. This is how Shaq got all of his money. And so he decided, well, if you're not good at the things I was good at, you're not a real center, and you can't be the most dominant center in the league. And so this seems to have gotten into Dwight Howard's head. He, like a weevil, like some sort of brain weevil, and convinced Dwight that he needed to learn how to play in the post. Now, the problem is Dwight Howard, while he is phenomenally athletic, just quick, great leaper, incredibly strong. He might have what I would describe as the most robotic post moves I've ever seen. He looks like he is... You know how in the 50s, like to teach you how to dance, they would have those like set of footprints that you would step into with like numbers on them so you could learn the dance?
Do the jitterbug. Yeah.
I imagine that that's what he sees every time he looks at the basketball floor when he's going to be making his post move. Like a 1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock hook. And it just, every time he does it, I know what's going to happen because he only has 2 or 3 moves and he only does them. He does them the same way every time. And because he is very robotic and he doesn't really adjust to what the defender's doing, it always looks bad, and has never been especially efficient at scoring out of the post, but he's decided that he must do it. Otherwise, he's not a real center. So he demands to hijack plays at least a few times a game, otherwise he won't do the other stuff that he's actually good at. And it's bad. It was okay when he was younger and stronger and could just bull people out of the way. But now he actually needs to use craft and technique, and he doesn't have it.
Yes.
So, just to weigh in here, I think everything you say about Dwight Howard's correct. Just some couple other things to note about his personality.
Please delve into that.
Yeah, no, this is from, I think this captures it pretty well. This is from back when he was playing with the Lakers. This is from an article. I don't think they really need the shout out. It's a 6-year-old article, but from Inside the Lakers with Mark Medina. and they're asking him about whether or not he's going to play in a preseason game, right? So Mark Medina asked Dwight this question: did Howard at least have any good dreams about possibly playing tonight? And Dwight answers the question: maybe. I had a dream that one day, Howard said, trailing off as he struggled reciting Martin Luther King's famed "I Have a Dream" speech.
Oof.
I think that pretty much tells you all you need to know about Dwight Howard. Like, they asked him if he was going to play tonight, and he tried to turn it into a joke response using MLK's "I Have a Dream" speech. Didn't know the words, so he just sort of trailed off.
Awesome. He's also famously known for loving candy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
He's also
has a really good sweet tooth.
Famously known for farting a lot.
He also, I mean, this never comes up in discussions about him, which I think is a little odd. I mean, this isn't a morality claim, just something to point out that he does have 5 children from 5 different women.
I did not know that.
Yeah, which it's like he tries to project this sort of whimsical, childlike demeanor, but I don't think that fact really aligns with that.
But at the end of the day, I just want to remind the person who wrote this, at the end of the day, when Dwight was at his peak, it was Dwight Howard.
Dominant.
Dwight Howard can reasonably say that there may have been a period where he was the best basketball player in the world.
Mm-hmm.
There might be at least one. Lest we not forget, he took the Orlando Magic, of all things, to the NBA Finals.
He did, and they should have won.
They should have won. But he took – I can't even tell you if there's a single all-star on that Orlando Magic team other than Dwight.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He was the second best guy.
Or Jameer Nelson.
No.
Michael Pietrus.
Philly
These were
boy.
the players.
St. Joe's University.
But that's how good Dwight Howard was. And
Yes.
I want to also just talk about personality and how Dwight maybe isn't the bulletproof, strong personality that he is. When Shaq was making fun of players during that period of time on Inside the NBA, when he first entered Inside the NBA, he was making fun of Dwight, and he was also making fun of Blake Griffin.
Yeah.
Dwight
Just
Howard
taking shots at 2 of the best players in the NBA.
Dwight Howard has kind of never really recovered. Blake Griffin today, if it weren't for the fact that he's on the Detroit Pistons, is playing an all-star caliber level of basketball right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in fact, I would argue if he was not on the Detroit Pistons right now, he would probably be in the all-star game because he's been playing really good.
I mean, I think he made the All-Star team.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I think as a reserve.
Which does the All-Star game matter at all anymore?
Not at all.
Now that
No,
fans
I
get
mean,
a
it
vote?
doesn't even determine who plays 4 games and who plays 3 at home.
It's
So.
absurd.
No, it makes no difference. But I think that, if anything, the Dwight thing shows that a player's on-court performance can hold them for so long, but then at a certain point in time, their personality, if it's a problem, starts being a real deterrent and hurts their team's performance. And Dwight, as soon as his back started to go, which was when he got to the Lakers, now that was, 6 years ago? Almost?
Yeah, he went to the Lakers in 2012, 2013.
Yeah, 6-7 years ago. Ever since then, he's been kind of more trouble than he's worth because he has the attitude of an all-star with the performance of a, fifth
Sixth
starter.
man.
Like, he's still starter caliber, but it's getting
and
close.
I will say that the 1 year he had in Charlotte last year was a fairly decent recovery year for Dwight.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
16 points, 12 rebounds, 1.6 blocks. It's a good
He
stat.
still gives you the numbers. It's just his personality and the things he demands of the team when he's there.
And how he scores is really an inefficient way to score in today's game.
Yeah, and he's bad at it. The problem isn't that he, posts up. The problem is he's bad at it. So that's Dwight Howard. He's not one of the worst players in the league. He's not Nick Stauskas.
Sauce Castillo.
Man, what a good nickname for such a bad player. So shall we get into a recap of our predictions, or shall we react?
I'm sorry,
Because it is halfway into the season.
I do have one more. I don't mean to turn this into a Dwight Howard podcast.
Go ahead.
But one last question. Just Basketball Reference has his Hall of Fame probability at 99.3%.
Yeah, yes.
I think that's appropriate.
Okay.
You win Defensive Player of the Year 3 times in a row, or 3 times. No, wait, was it in a row? No, I think it was spread. You win Defensive Player of the Year as many times as you do. You can come on now. Yes.
You take that team to the finals?
And he has the All-Star games.
Yeah, it was 3 years in a row. 08, 09.
And we're done.
Yeah, and
3 years in a row, you took the Orlando Magic to their one and only NBA final. Oh, no, wait, no. I forgot about the Penny Hardaway Shaq Magic. I always forget about that. But you took the Orlando Magic, led by Van Gundy, of all people.
Stan Van, build a fucking wall.
Yep. Yeah, and I just think we forget about how good he was in Houston, but he was actually quite good for the Rockets.
True.
When he, I think they would have given the Warriors a pretty good run the year that they got past the Clippers if Dwight didn't hurt his knee. They were actually giving it to them okay, and then Dwight hurt his knee and it was over.
Yeah, and Dwight's just not great at playing an ISO.
No, and he's not.
I'm just combing through his Basketball Reference. His turnover stats for a center are absurd.
They're insane. It's because he's so bad at posting up.
How does a center lead the league in turnovers?
Because he's maybe one of the most predictable post-up players I've ever seen for someone as smooth, as strong and as fast as he can be. It's amazing. His brain is just, when he's posting up, it's just a little too methodical, I guess.
Yeah.
A little too robotic.
All right.
Well, that's it. Moving on. So shall we recap? Because
Let's recap. I'm only going to do what we recapped in terms of the team positions for the Western and Eastern Conference, because we'll wait until our next episode to talk about our individual awards and where we were. Although those didn't do so well either.
Some of those I think were fucked up.
Some of those didn't really turn out the way. So Pete and I are going to get spanked on that 6th Man of the Year award because Scary Terry's not a 6th man anymore.
I might have to vote.
Who did I vote for?
You voted for DeAndre Jordan.
Did I? For 6th man?
No, wait, Andre Drummond. You voted
No,
for
that was most improved. That was most improved, not 6th man. And that's not going to pan out. That was a bad one.
No, not at all. All right. So the first category that we voted for was worst team, and I think, Gino, you got the closest.
Yes.
Pete and I got pretty close, but not as bad as we thought. Pete and I predicted the Atlanta Hawks. Gino, you predicted the Suns, and then also I have a little asterisk here. Pete had predicted that the saddest team would be Detroit.
Not as sad as I expected.
No, they're not that sad. They're just streaky. There was that weird period where they would win 6 games and then lose 7, and then they would win 5 and then lose 4. And like I said, Blake Griffin is playing amazing basketball.
If Blake ends up murdering Reggie Jackson, which is a possibility, this prediction could still come true.
Oops, I killed him on accident.
Yeah.
Whoops.
But the true answer, and I guess we will talk about it later, were the Cleveland Cavaliers and the New York Knicks.
Well, right now the Phoenix Suns are tied. Actually, they are worse than the Cavaliers. It's the New York Knicks at the very bottom, and then the Suns, and then the Cavs. So
yes, based on percentage.
I think right now I'm feeling still pretty good about it. The Knicks might actually get better after some stuff we'll discuss later, and the Suns, there are 3 teams in the Western Conference with a negative point differential, which is insane, versus the East, which has 7 teams with a positive point differential. No, 6 teams with a positive point differential.
Yeah, there's one team that has a plus 0-0.
Yeah, there's one team with a plus 0-0.
Gino, I'm going to say Gino may have won that one. I'm willing to give that to him. You're the only person who did not bid over the amount.
Yeah, the Hawks, it turns out Trae Young's good, and that's kind of good enough.
They're good, but they're still small.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, they're so small.
They're developing, but they have things to develop, unlike the other teams, which are just sad.
All right, and going to our predictions overall for our teams, we got a lot of us made the same mistakes across the board. Number one, of course, is we all really didn't see Boston not managing their minutes at all.
Though they are still in third place.
True. Tied with the Sixers, though.
Yes.
Yep. I think we all got the top four pretty correct. Though even though I was the highest on the Bucks, I thought they'd be in third or fourth place, not first.
You predicted 4, I predicted 5, and Pete predicted 4. So we thought that Giannis would have a jump of a year. We did not think that he would be able to lead his team even above Kawhi on the Raptors. The other prediction that there were 2 more predictions that we all got wrong. The first of which would have to be, and maybe we can talk about it later, is the Pelicans self-imploding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the Pelicans as the number 6 seed. Pete had the Pelicans as the number 4 seed.
Yeah.
Gino, you had the Pelicans as the number... Oops, I lost it. The number 6 seed as well. So we did not see that one coming. But, yeah, basically everything caught on fire for the Pelicans, and now they're probably going to become a lottery team for the next foreseeable future.
Did we have the Trailblazers dropping out? Was that...
No.
Who did I have dropping out of the playoffs? Because
you had
these all make sense
dropping
to me.
out of the playoffs. This is actually, if we want to talk about things that I got right, I was the only person who predicted that OKC would be a top 5 team and that Paul George would have a career-defining year, which he is. He's killing it. Gino, you missed the worst on OKC. You predicted they would be the 7th seed. And I was the only person who was not super high on the Jazz, and Pete and Gino both predicted that the Jazz would have a top 3 team.
I still stand by that. I think that they had by far the hardest first half of the season, so they should be getting their gravy in the back half. So I think they are going to start catching back up. Maybe they won't get up to top 3, but I could still see them in the top 4.
Maybe they're going to pass, though.
I will reiterate that I think that the Jazz are Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, and a whole lot of nothing. And poorly
You take
coached.
that back about Joe Ingles.
And Rubio.
Yeah, okay, fine, whatever. But I had my own personal misses, especially when it came to the East. I was the highest on the Washington Wizards, predicting that they would be the number 6 seed. And I will say that we were all technically wrong about the Wizards. Pete was the most right by putting them as the number 8 seed. But Pete incorrectly predicted that it would be Dwight that would bring the team down, not just general shittiness.
Yeah. And John Wall getting hurt, which is a help and a harm.
We were all very low on the Nuggets. Pete had the Nuggets as the number 7 seed.
That's no good.
Gino had the Nuggets as the number 5 seed. And
Hey, I feel
had
good.
the Nuggets on as the number 7 seed, same as Pete.
Feel good about 5.
And we all thought that the Lakers would be a lot better than they are right now.
Well, LeBron missed like
Half
15
the season,
games or something.
Yeah. And I just want to say that they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. They have LeBron. They have LeBron James.
Did anybody think the Denver Nuggets were going to have the second best defense in the West?
No,
absolutely.
I thought
They're
their
tied with
offense
the
would
Jazz in points per game. That's nuts.
And Paul Millsap missed a lot of time, too. Their best defensive player.
In terms of the Eastern Conference, I would say the only thing that we did not predict was the Brooklyn Nets being fairly solid.
Yeah. Weird that our show would go ahead and underestimate the
After making fun of
Nets.
the Brooklyn Nets for as long as we did, we didn't realize that, surprise, surprise, Spencer Dinwiddie, of all people, would have a career-defining year.
Yeah.
Although he's out for, I forget how long, but I think he's out for the season?
I will never
Or
forget.
is it just his thumb?
I don't
Whatever.
know. I will never forget going to a playoff game against, I forget who it was. I think it was against the Hawks, and it was a Brooklyn Nets game, and man, did people not give a shit. It was incredible.
Beautiful arena, though.
Beautiful arena, but man, that team has been bad for so long. It's great now. They actually earned it this time. They didn't torch their future.
D'Angelo Russell. I want him to have a player worth a fuck that he can play next to.
Yeah. They swindled a team to get him instead of being swindled. Good for them.
And that seems about it.
Did I have the Cavs in the playoffs?
You did. I forgot to point that out.
Because that's fucking terrible.
I did too, I think.
Yes, Pete and Gino both predicted that the Cavs would be able to eke out a number 8 seed.
Yeah, it was no good.
Yeah, I didn't see Kevin Love not playing like the entire season coming, and I did not think that they would. LeBron James lifts all boats, and I didn't realize how much he was lifting all of the boats.
I don't know how I talked myself into Colin Sexton either. But
you did. I listened to that podcast, and you're like, man, I think that Colin Sexton is going to have a great year this year.
No, I was wrong. That was incorrect.
I thought that they would just play the existing veterans and just be kind of dumb and try to make the playoffs, but they benched everyone and said, Kevin, you're sick. You don't get to play anymore.
I don't want to say that we were wrong about this. We were all wrong technically. I'm going to say technically we were all wrong about the Houston Rockets. We had them the 2nd or 3rd seed. They're doing great for half of their all-stars being out.
Yeah.
And
they have 3 really good players, and 2 of them didn't play.
And 2 of them are out. And I think I know this is slightly off topic. Are we all on Team Harden right now?
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
It's insane. I still can't stand watching him.
Oh, I'm the same boat as you. I hate watching Harden, but what he is doing on the court is nothing short of amazing.
Absolutely incredible.
Have you tried watching him now, since he's gone on his run without Chris Paul and Clint Capella? His insane run where he was dropping like 50?
I'm just going to say what I said last time. I find the D'Antoni offense absolutely boring to watch, and it's incredibly frustrating to see Harden get the fouls. Like, the refs admittedly should do a better job because they know that he's going to force fouls, but I don't find it fun to watch the Rockets.
I would rather just watch highlights.
He earns them. Like, people foul him all the time.
I just don't find that fun to watch, Gino. I'm telling you that I don't find it fun to watch that.
That's fine. The only thing I will say is that some of these games where he's playing against these teams that really want to try and stop him, they're sending 2 guys on him in the backcourt. And in a professional basketball game, I've not seen that happen before, where they actually send a double team to him to deny him the ball on an inbounds after like a fucking make. I've never seen any team attempt that. He always beats it because they give him the ball and he immediately passes it ahead, and then it's 4-on-3. But I've never seen a team even think to try it because NBA players are too smart and too good.
And I also have to reiterate my criticism time and time again about the Rockets in general is this D'Antoni offense is great in moderation, but they have no long-term viability in the postseason if they want to play ISOs for more than 35 minutes. I mean, they're going to end up in the same situation they were in last year, and the same outcome, probably even worse now that people are out hurt.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be as good of a team come the postseason, but we'll see because they've been doing an excellent job in the buyout market. I think
this is no fault of Giannis because yes, he's still playing great, but he's probably. I mean, do you think Giannis gets the pity vote for Defensive Player of the Year?
I'm feeling pretty good about putting him in for Defensive Player and MVP because I think he'll get one of them. I think he could get one of them.
Yeah, I think I originally predicted Anthony Davis, but we'll talk about that later, why that's not going to happen. I think now I'm actually for Defensive Player of the Year on Paul George. He's kind of, again, falls into that kind of weird Ben Wallace category of when you look at his stats, you don't think he's a defensive powerhouse, but when you watch him, you see just how he can irritate the other players. just force them to make dumb decisions and just how he's able to clamp up other players. I like him as a dark horse candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. But, yeah. All right, so that's the review of our standings. We'll come back when we record our next podcast. We'll talk about the individual awards, which, like I said, other than Gino's prediction for a few of the Giannis categories, I think most of us were wrong, but not so far off.
Yeah, we shall see. So I think we've now come to, it's about halfway through the year. It is now rapidly approaching the trade deadline, which is February 7th, I believe, so it should be the coming Thursday, which means some interesting things have been happening. Why don't we take it off with fuck the Knicks? Pete, do you agree? Do you second that? I resolve fuck the Knicks. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Well, can we put a little asterisk where fuck James Dolan?
Oh, sure. I'm always on board with that.
Fuck the Knicks. Fuck James Dolan. That franchise is terrible. I hate everything about it. The only reason I would ever pay attention to them is because they're in the state in which I was born. And if it was not for that, I would never pay attention to them, and I would not care, and my life would be better.
So as a reformed Knicks fan, Gino, what was your initial reaction, and how has it changed over time?
Okay, so for those who are not too plugged in with the NBA, the New York Knickerbockers have traded Kristaps Porzingis, their best player by a fairly wide margin, and who is only in his third year of his rookie contract after he was an all-star in his second year of his contract.
And he's still young.
And he is still in his early 20s. They traded him to the Dallas Mavericks for a package that included 2 first-round draft picks and Dennis Smith Jr., who is a point guard. Now, let me try to articulate why this trade happened. Kristaps was traded along with Tim Hardaway Jr., who is a player who the Knicks signed to, I believe, a max contract.
That can't be right.
2 or 3 years ago?
Regardless, it's one of the worst contracts.
Oh, it's a terrible contract, but it can't be a max, can it?
I believe it was a max. Let me
look up how over the cap they are on cap.
So it was 4 years, $70 million.
4 years, $70 million. So
not a max, but it works out to about 18, 19 a year.
Okay, so to truly understand how terrible this situation was, there's 2 facts you need to know. One, the Knicks drafted Tim Hardaway Jr., and then they traded him to the Atlanta Hawks for a draft pick that then, I forget who that even turned into. It wasn't a player that's still on the Knicks, I don't think. Then they signed him to this 4-year, $70 million deal that they were bidding against themselves.
They
no
traded
one
him
else.
for Jerian Grant.
Right, Jerian Grant, the guy who they basically had to salary dump a year or 2 later to the Chicago
tell you
Bulls.
who that is.
Yeah, he's a backup point guard for the Chicago Bulls, one of the worst teams in the NBA. So Jerian Grant, they traded him for Jerian Grant. Then they just had to have him back, so they signed him to a 4-year, $70 million deal when he's probably worth 4 years, 40, if that. So, 50% overpay. That's what you want. And then they also drafted a player, Frank Ntilikina.
Frankie Smokes.
Yes, Frankie Nicotine, who is a defensive-minded point guard. They had the option of drafting a player named Dennis Smith Jr. at the exact same draft spot, and they elected not to.
Or Donovan Mitchell. I mean, not that that's here or there, but
yeah, but I think that it's important when you look at this. One, Frank Ntilikina is coming off the bench and can barely play for them right now, and they are terrible. They're the worst team in the NBA. There's really no reason for him not to play. Except that he's been beaten out for the job by 2 people they signed off the scrap heap for nothing, in Emmanuel Mudiay and Trey Burke. He was getting beaten out by 2 has-beens, or not has-beens, but, retreads, guys who had been close to out of the league, and then he got outplayed by them. But this trade, the Knicks are trading Kristaps to the Mavericks to get rid of Tim Hardaway Jr.'s gigantic salary, and to acquire Dennis Smith Jr. So they are trading away a guy who they overpaid because they wanted him back, and they are trading for a player they could have just drafted. And in this exchange, they are getting rid of their best player. So they are just correcting two mistakes that they had the option to do correctly the first time.
So I ended up, I'm looking at a list of what happened to many of the draft picks that they gave away. So I'm just going to run down 1, 2, 3, 4. So they've traded away first-round draft picks for nothing. The first one was LaMarcus Aldridge. The second one was Joakim Noah, who they passed on, or they passed the pick to the Bulls. Then they traded for Joakim Noah well past his prime for a 4-year, $72 million contract.
Which they bought him out of.
Yes. They also gave one of their first-round draft picks that turned into Gordon Hayward. And then, so as that they could get Jarjani well past his prime again.
Who?
They traded away a first-round draft pick that turned into Jamal Murray, and that was Toronto.
In the Bargnani deal?
Bargnani deal, yeah.
Wow. The Knicks are terrible, man. So the reason they did this salary dump was because they want to have 2 available max cap slots so they can sign 2 big names this summer. The big names they seem to be targeting are Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving.
Or KD.
And Kevin Durant. Yeah, those are the 3 that they're hoping they can get 2 of them. Just 2 small factoids here. One, why would you think you can get anyone? You're the fucking Knicks.
Remember when they tried to create cap space to bring over LeBron James?
They did this exact mating dance 6 years ago or 7 years ago to try and acquire LeBron James. He said no thank you, and they ended up getting the superstar duo of Amari Stoudemire and Carmelo Anthony.
Which worked for 2 years.
Define worked.
They got to the playoffs for the first time in a while.
They got to the playoffs by hemorrhaging their entire future, by mortgaging all of that.
Carmelo gave them 1 to 1.5 good years.
Yeah, you don't want to get rid of all your draft picks and your entire roster, so
especially if one of your draft picks turned into Gordon Hayward or Jamal Murray or Marcus Aldridge.
Yeah,
or peak Joakim Noah,
Wilson Chandler. Danilo Gallinari, all these players that they had that are now like useful players in the NBA, and the Knicks are 10 and fucking what's the second part of their record?
43.
They are 10 and 42.
Let the hate 42. Flow through your veins, Gino.
They're so terrible. And this trade, they get rid of Kristaps Porzingis at he's not even at his peak yet. He was hurt. He had a torn ACL, so he's been out this entire year. But when he comes back, he will have rested an entire year. He should be in a really good spot to come and hit the ground running.
Yeah, it's a dream come true for Porzingis. I mean, he's playing with the best possible complementary player in the league, Doncic, and he's going to spend more time with his personal hero for the foreseeable future. I don't see how Dallas does not convince. I mean, there are some people like, oh, but what if Kristaps doesn't sign for the next? He's going to sign.
He's going to sign. He's a restricted free agent. He's not signing a qualifying offer.
Also, if you're Kristaps Porzingis, how do you not sign? The Dallas Mavericks, this is the perfect situation. You get to spend time with Dirk, who is your personal hero, and you've said this like 4 or 5 times this year, and you're with Doncic. That's a win-win for you.
Even setting aside his health issues, like he's not really in a place to gamble given his history.
Yeah.
I just look at it and think the only way that this trade makes sense for the Knicks and works out is if Dennis Smith Jr. is an all-star point guard, which I think is in his, that's attainable for him. He's really athletic. He's one of the quickest players in the NBA. So I think it can happen for him. He's not an excellent shooter. If he gets that, he can become an all-star. Great. Those 2 first-round draft picks, if they turn out to be high draft picks or the Knicks do well, because the Knicks have drafted okay in the past. So, that can happen. But the only way this makes sense is if Porzingis has an injury-marred career.
I mean, what if, let's say hypothetically, because Kyrie seems out of Boston, right? He's very unhappy. He's walked his stance back on, sticking around. If him and KD got together and they were like, listen, we're going to New York, and then somehow conveyed that to management, the other option is the Knicks were just cheating.
Yeah, that the fix was in. But even I just think even if the fix is in and you get KD and Kyrie, that roster does not beat whatever team comes out of the West, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either.
I don't even know if it beats the Bucks, you know, or the Raptors.
I don't think it beats the Raptors.
I don't. Well, I mean, do you two really think that Kawhi is going to sign with the Raptors again? Because
I don't know.
I'm 50-50 because, you know, he bought that $1 million house in Los Angeles, but, you know, everyone buys a house in Hollywood. But for the Raptors, like, I don't know. I mean, Giannis with the Bucks is going to be together for a little bit longer.
I just think that, you know, there's the team in Philadelphia. They're going to be quite good. I think that the Celtics, even if they lost Kyrie, would still be a fairly excellent team. And the Knicks are so terrible at every other position. You know, they've got nothing.
So
there's no useful players on that roster. There's almost no useful players on that roster. So what are you going to do? You've got these two excellent players who you're paying max money to, and you've given away all of your draft picks, so you're not even able to build a roster around them.
What is Cantor's contract
Pete,
right now?
I don't know if you've been following it, but it sounds like fucking Sacramento Kings are interested in getting Cantor.
Yeah.
Finally, another center for the Kings.
God damn it. And it sounds like they want to trade, and I shit you not, they're going to consider trading Willie Cauley-Stein for Enes Kanter, and why?
I'm still super high on Willie Cauley-Stein.
I am too. I
could not be lower on Enes Kanter. He's so bad on defense.
He's only got 1 year left on his contract.
You can pick him up, and just don't trade for him, please.
He's useful, but he's not very good.
Well, unless you're playing a team with a pick and roll. He's absolutely horrible. I mean, yes, oh, God. I guess my attitude about this trade, this whole situation is, where are the Knicks in terms of their draft pick? Because they were in a pretty good position to pick up Zion Williamson or a top draft pick for the next draft. And
they're still there.
They're still there.
With the new...
it's like a 14% chance or something, right?
15, I think.
What I was going to say is with the new weighting of the draft, it used to be that the worst team in the league got the highest lottery odds, but now the bottom three teams all have the same lottery odds. So they will, as long as they're in the bottom three, which it's almost impossible for them not to be, though some of the players they're getting back in this deal include DeAndre Jordan, who's on a 1 year deal, expiring contract.
They're going to
Wes
buy
Matthew.
him out. He's done.
They're going to buy him and Wesley Matthews out, Gino.
Yeah, they're both gone.
The only way I was going to say that they fuck this up is if they actually keep those players. I think they're buying them both out, though.
Yeah, they will.
Or they'll get mysterious illnesses.
I think the one thing that we're totally forgetting to talk about is how Porzingis said, supposedly as Woj reported it, Porzingis told management that he wanted out or wanted to trade, and literally they got on a phone and called Dallas about their offer from a week ago.
Instantly.
Like, they didn't even listen to offers or make it public. Like, they literally did. Yeah, they instantly traded him. They're not doing what, at least, you know, as bad as the situation is for the New Orleans Pelicans, they're literally listening to every offer, playing hardball, and they are biding their time to see whose draft pick is at what position.
He was a restricted free agent.
You didn't have to do this now.
So, like, if people don't know, if you're a restricted free agent, the Knicks have the right to match anyone else's contract. He couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, the only way he gets to unrestricted free agency is if he signs a qualifying offer this year, which is basically a 1 year contract, and then he's a true free agent. But if you do that, you're signing a 1 year contract, and he's coming off of an ACL tear, so that's a pretty big gamble on yourself.
No player of his caliber in the history of the NBA has ever signed the qualifying offer.
Yeah. Especially with that injury history. It was not going to happen.
So ultimately, what the Knicks got out of this trade is they dumped two bad contracts with the hope that they can use that cap space to sign two players. Because at this point, they've basically pigeonholed themselves into a situation to where you need two all-stars to jump ship, which is a hard ask because this is one of the worst run organizations in the league.
Yeah. They're terrible.
They're terrible.
They're truly terrible. So one thing I just want to ask, does anyone here think that this deal was not available in the summer?
They would have had to sign him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but if he's going to sign the qualifying offer or the restricted deal, like they sign him to an actual extension, like, do we think that Dallas would not have made this deal when the season was over?
So the only reason they couldn't was because at that point, DeAndre Jordan and Wesley Matthews' contracts would have expired. Now, if you're asking me, could they have salary dumped Porzingis at this point? Yeah, somebody would have done it. But if they wanted to like clear cap space for this summer specifically, they had to make the deal now.
Okay, because I'm just thinking, did any team before the Knicks pulled the trigger on this have a better offer than Kristaps Porzingis?
Supposedly the Spurs made an offer.
Well, if they wanted to go get Anthony Davis, is there a player who was actually being offered, or sounds like they're being offered, that the Pelicans would want more than Porzingis? A young all-star coming off of their rookie deal, who they can control for the next 5 years.
I don't think so.
Because I think he's better than every single player on the Lakers other than LeBron James. And that's basically the Lakers offer, right? I don't know that there's a better offer than what the Knicks could have put together, and then they would have not needed 2 max cap slots because you already have Anthony Davis. You'll need one more guy then. But, I wish this fucking team would just build like a normal team by hiring good coaches and giving players appropriate playing time and just trying to develop players and make smart draft picks, like the frickin' Nets have done for the last 5-6 years, it feels like.
They suck. They're still $20 million over the cap with this team. Their practical cap space is negative 20.
10 and 42. How do you...
Well, you know what this means, Gino. They're going to sign Melo to a minimum contract.
Melo's out of the league now, isn't he? Or is he still technically on the
No, he's done.
Rockets?
There's some chatter about team. I forget who the team is now, but somebody's looking at him.
Fuck, why not? Do it. Win Melo his ring. I respect it.
Man, the Warriors should just pick Melo up and just get him a ring.
His fucking ring. I would respect that, man.
So I think
have the Warriors sign Melo, have the Warriors sign Vince Carter, win them both their rings.
Another thing I wanted to discuss, Boogie's back.
Yeah.
CP, you are very familiar with DeMarcus Boogie Cousins.
I am.
Longtime center for the Sacramento Kings. Then he played briefly for the New Orleans Pelicans. And then this year, he signed with the Golden State Warriors on a minimum contract because he was coming off of an Achilles tear, one of the worst injuries a player can have. And because he was playing for the Warriors...
He's young, and so you can kind of recover from that. If
and
you're Kobe,
he was
well past your prime, then yes, the ACL tear is going to ruin your career. But if you're
Achilles.
in your 20s or 30s...
Achilles.
Yeah.
Achilles. DeMarcus Cousins doesn't have to jump very much either to be effective.
Oh.
He's one of the most skilled players at his position ever.
And of his size.
I want to point out that Boogie with one leg is probably still a top 5 center.
And that's what I wanted to discuss because he came back probably 2 months later than another team that desperately needed him would have forced him back. But because he took that extra time to rehab, I don't know if either of you have seen him since he's come back. Have you watched any of him?
Yeah, I've seen a bit.
He looks normal.
He does. Yeah. That first game was a little rough. His first game back was a little rough, but
yeah, he was getting his sea legs under him. But he's looked like DeMarcus Cousins with all the same pluses and all the same minuses. Like sometimes he doesn't get back on defense. Sometimes he just has trouble keeping guys in front of him that are, in the pick and roll. He doesn't jump very high, but everything that's good about him, he's still one of the most incredibly skilled post players in the league. He still can shoot threes at like a 35% clip. He's still an incredible passer.
Yeah, somehow he's still averaging 4 assists per game in only 22 minutes. That's nuts.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's averaging a double-double in 20-ish minutes.
So, is there any way the Warriors lose this now?
No.
This championship?
Was there?
No.
Well, I thought before, like, you might have made the argument that, like, you know, if someone gets hurt or they have a shooting slump, maybe, you know, something can happen. You know, it would have involved an injury and a shooting slump. But now they've got 5 All-Stars.
Yeah.
They can lose 1 or 2 of them probably and still beat everyone.
The only way I could see is if Kevin Durant gets all up in his feelings because Draymond, you know, pisses him off again somehow. But even that, I don't know if it would be enough.
I don't think that's going to be an issue because I think Draymond's kind of starting to learn, oh, wait, now that Boogie's back, I can just be a role player and do all the defensive shit that Boogie doesn't want to do, which he's actually doing a really good job at.
Yeah, Draymond doesn't have to score again.
3 or 4 blocks per game, and he's like, wait, I don't need to take the pocket threes anymore.
Which is good because he is shooting terribly.
20%.
Oof.
Draymond could not score until the end of the season, and it would be fine. They would still have the most efficient offense in the NBA.
It's crazy.
And I think they would get better defensively because, again, then you could have Draymond, your power forward, just be a defensive specialist.
The last time I checked, the Warriors had a 135 offensive rating with Boogie, Steph, KD, Clay, and Draymond.
That's not even a real number. Like, that's insane.
Let me see if that's still there, plus minus on Basketball Reference.
Turns out it's only like 130. Like, oh, geez, what's going on?
Yeah, their offense was basically on fire from NBA Jam. It's just a fire emoji.
They're killing it. They're so
yeah.
good.
So I was originally, before we planned this, I was going to say let's do a segment called buy or sell, and ultimately, you really, really, really have to push it if you think that you buy the field versus the Warriors. You know, I mean,
unless you just let like the East combine the Bucks and the Raptors into one team. Even then, it would be a 7-game series probably.
Yes, unless we think that there might be another 2016 situation where the Warriors basically burn themselves out in the Western Conference Finals, and whoever takes the East just coasts through. But even then, I think there are enough quality teams in the East where they're going to be fighting for it just as hard as everyone else. I mean, Giannis, Kawhi, Joel Embiid. I was meaning to ask, do you guys think that the Pacers will be able to make the playoffs without Oladipo?
No, they're going to be close. They might be at the bottom of the playoff race, but they might actually fall out of it now.
I think they have enough of a cushion. Let's see, who's 8th?
They've got the Bogdan you do want. Thaddeus Young, Tyreke Evans.
I think that they're definitely going to drop from 5, but I think they'll stay in. I don't think anybody's leapfrogging them. Maybe the Pistons, but...
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there are multiple teams with negative point differentials that are going to make the playoffs in the East.
Which reminds me, Gino, you asked for fuck the Knicks. I want to just get my hashtag running. Fuck conferences. Fuck conferences. I've never wished for the Sacramento Kings to be an Eastern Conference team more than I have now. Fuck conferences.
I mean, their point differential would fit right in.
Such a bunch of bullshit.
Okay, let's see.
2 teams.
I think I've finally found... Okay, so DeMarcus Cousins, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson. They're plus 22.3.
God.
In 53 minutes played. Their effective field goal... let's see. What's their just offensive rating? But plus 22.3 is insane.
That's absolutely nuts.
They're beating upon their regular starting lineup with Kevon Looney in that place. They were already plus 17.5. They're 5 points better than that.
Jesus.
But I just want to say, man, this offseason is going to be interesting.
It's going to be nuts.
It's going to be crazy. I think everything's going to be on fire. I think next season we will have the level of parity that I've been looking for a while.
So this is my question, right? Is this good for the league?
No. I mean,
yes.
look at how hard it is for these small market teams just to keep their players together. Look at the situation in New Orleans. Look at the situation for every small market team. Like, they've been struggling.
Yeah, like the San Antonio Spurs and the Oklahoma City Thunder. You know, and the Portland Trailblazers. There's so many small market teams that are doing A-OK. I do not weep for the small market teams that are terrible, like the New Orleans Pelicans. They have no business having Anthony Davis.
Which I guess it's time for us to talk about that, the whole situation with Anthony Davis.
Yeah, so Anthony Davis, one of the top 5 players in the NBA, he plays for the New Orleans Pelicans, and he has demanded a trade.
Good for him.
Does anyone think that's happening before the end of the season?
Personally, if I were the Pelicans, I would say no. But the Pelicans are just incompetent enough to where I could see them doing an ill-conceived trade before the end of the season.
Yeah, I will also say no, but I wouldn't be shocked if it did. I mean, if they do, it has to be to the Lakers. And the only way that really goes down is if Anthony Davis says, I'm only signing with the Lakers.
Which, and if I were at the Pelicans, I would respond by saying, all right, you're going to sit on the fucking bench, and you're just going to watch your stock drop.
I would trade him to Toronto, too.
I mean, his stock won't drop.
I'm just saying, like, the fact that they are still playing Anthony Davis is the dumbest fucking thing I have ever seen my entire life.
Oh, are they still playing him?
Yes.
Is that a thing that's happening?
They're still playing Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Why?
He shouldn't play for the rest of the season.
Why? You might as well, like, increase the value of your fucking draft picks. Why are you... No.
Because there's no way they're making the playoffs. They're 23-30. They're the 3rd worst team in the West. There's no way.
So he didn't play against the Spurs last night.
I know that they removed him from their hype video during home games.
Yeah, they did do that.
Which is savage.
Yeah, you're right. They have officially put him as on the second rotation. So good old Pete, Jahlil Okafor is the starting center of the New Orleans Pelicans.
My man,
and he's
trust
playing.
The process.
He's playing well. It's weird. But, man, I just think that the Pelicans, there's no reason they should make a trade because all the offers they're getting right now seem terrible. Like, the Lakers could offer literally everyone on the roster except for LeBron James, and I wouldn't want to do that deal. I think you'd be able to get a better deal, you know, because they just want young players and either young players and draft picks or all-stars, and those packages will be available in the summer. And then you'll know what the lottery picks look like.
I would also say wait until you know what the lottery picks are before trading for lottery picks.
Especially this year because there's Zion and then who cares?
Ja Morant. Ja?
There is that Ja one? There's a point guard too?
There are good players, but Zion is the only one who you're just like, what the fuck? This is unfair.
He's the only potential replacement for an Anthony Davis.
Yeah. Yeah, you shouldn't be 6'6", 280 pounds or whatever the fuck he is and jump 42 inches.
He's great. I want to just say we're on our fuck Duke.
Yeah, that's fair.
But Zion is amazing. He looks so good.
Ja Morant was the ZP. That was the guy I was thinking of. He's legit.
He's also great.
He is legit.
So there are 2 pretty good players to draft. But yeah, there's no reason for them to trade Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I think
before you know who has the first draft pick. Don't do it. Don't do it. Also, as much as I like Kyle Kuzma, there's no way you can repackage Kyle Kuzma on the Lakers to where you have a winning situation on the Pelicans. At all.
Lonzo Ball is the best three-point shooter of the players that the Lakers are offering. Think about that.
I don't trust Lonzo at all.
Yeah, but just think about that.
Yeah, I think he's genuinely bad.
I think he's good at defense. I think defensively he's a decent player.
Man.
But if I reminded you that the Lakers went out of their way to draft Lonzo instead of Donovan Mitchell or Smart, then you start to realize, oh fuck, you got swindled, you got bamboozled.
Yeah, so Lonzo is shooting 33%. Josh Hart is shooting 34%, so I guess I'm wrong on that one. Brandon Ingram is shooting 29%.
I guess it comes down to do the Pelicans, is it to their benefit to trade?
Who's shooting 30% from three?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Is it to their benefit to become a lottery team and do a legitimate 5-year rebuild, or do you want to win now?
I would want to sell everything, because as long as this Warriors team, even when they lose Kevin Durant and potentially lose Boogie as well, I just don't see them being bad enough. I don't think they're going to lose Clay.
I think it's possible.
As long as Steph is on that team, I think that they are going to be a formidable foe. I think the Thunder will be a foe. I think the Nuggets are still there. The Rockets are still there. There are all of these teams that just are going to be stomping in the West for the next 2-3 years at least. And I think you want to duck that.
I just kind of have to reiterate, look at the Lakers. Look at how much of that young core they traded away for LeBron, which maybe in certain circles you might say that makes sense, but it's going to hamper them as much as it hampered the Cavs now that they're dealing with all of these contracts that are horrible for players that were friends of LeBron or LeBron wanted to play with.
Yeah, but all those players who they've signed so far are guys on one-year deals. So that's fine for now. And the only way LeBron signs this deal is if he knows Anthony Davis or some other player is coming, because he's not signing a long-term contract with the Lakers on the hope that they acquire someone. He's not an idiot. So this Anthony Davis thing is probably a done deal.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to see whether they do the trade now or do the trade later. That's, I think, the only thing that's in the air at this point.
It's going to be an interesting offseason. I'll just say that.
It is, because I think this season is Warriors and everyone else. It'll be interesting to see whether the Bucks actually manage to maintain, because they have the highest point differential in the league.
They do
right now.
It's over 9.
Over 9, which is historically good. So I hope that they're able to do this in the postseason, but I'm just afraid that with Giannis being unable to shoot threes, everyone's just going to pack the paint and then stick to their man other than him, and it's just going to be tough for him.
Yeah. I for the Eastern Conference, I would almost say that I feel more confident about predicting the Raptors to go through versus the Bucks.
Yeah, it's possible. So since this is a rare occasion where both of your teams are good, ZP, how does it feel having the Kings not be the laughingstock of the NBA?
It feels good, albeit they probably still will not make the playoffs. So the current longest running postseason drought will continue. And I think I talked to you about it. The big problem with the Sacramento Kings is that they are one of two teams that have positive cap space. That means they have a floor. That means they didn't spend money. And unlike the Dallas Mavericks, who have about positive $5 million, the Sacramento Kings have positive $11 million. That means they've let $11 million, which they could have signed, which they could have used, just sitting on the table, just nothing. They didn't use it. Now,
So they have $11 million before they hit the salary cap, or is that below the salary floor? Because there is a deal that every team must spend X amount of millions of dollars. Otherwise, they basically take the difference between what they're paying and the salary floor, and they give that in the form of bonuses to the players that are on the roster.
It's the bonus situation. So,
oh wow, they are $11 million below the salary floor.
The practical cap space is $11 million.
Okay, so they have cap space. Okay, they are not below the floor because they've been below the floor before.
Yes, below the floor they are $6 million.
Oh, that's bad.
That is bad, right?
You should sign a person who's worth $6 million.
They could sign a player that's $6 million worth, but they can't because I love watching them because seeing a team completely incentivize quickness versus thickness, I think as SB Nation put it, is
Quick
a lot
versus
of
thick.
Quick versus thick. Is a lot of fun to watch. I think that my predictions about De'Aaron Fox being the real deal are panning out, but what will be the bane of my existence are all these power forwards and centers that you could just interchange that cannot guard the rim to save their fucking lives.
Except for Willie.
And even he is questionable at best in terms of guarding the rim. And the fact that they're thinking about trading Willie Cauley-Stein for Enes Kanter just drives me absolutely insane. This team is still poorly run, but in the weirdest way possible, to where they're almost frugal to a fault. And they're kind of like the Oakland Athletics of the NBA, to where they only take players that they know they can buy for cheap, and they think that they can get away with this island of misfit toys that kind of works. That's kind of compelling to watch. I mean, the only bad contract they have is Zach Randolph, and they're only paying about $12 million for Zach Randolph. That's not great, but at the same time, if your worst contract is just $12 million,
that's not that bad.
That's not that bad. So I don't know, man. I'm super happy that the Sacramento Kings are in a situation to where they're at least fun to watch and respectable, and people go out of their way to watch them occasionally. But what will be the bane of their existence is they are totally and completely hampered by prior decisions. They have no future draft picks, and oddly enough, they have no first round draft picks. And oddly enough, Vlade has been cutting deals to where
the Kings don't?
The Kings do not have a first-round draft pick for a while because of everything that the prior management did to get them where they are today. So Vlade has been able to – that's bad. But Vlade has gotten them a ridiculous number of second-round draft picks. I think we have 2 next year and then 3 after that. It's crazy. So while everyone in the West is probably going to get better, I think this is a team to where – they're in the same situation as like the Detroit Pistons, where they are going to vie for the number 7 or 8 seed and then get trounced in the first round. But I have lived for 13 years of my life not seeing this team make the playoffs, and so I will take the constellation prize.
Yeah. So, Pete,
yes.
How do you feel now that your team is not a laughingstock anymore?
I mean, I struggle with this. I do. Because, exactly. Part of me wants them to, be good and win because they're the Philadelphia 76ers. And part of me wants them to be bad and fail because I don't want Hinkie's process to succeed. I hate Jimmy Butler. I hate everything about him, despite him being pretty good.
I mean, do you hate what he did to the Timberwolves when he left? Do you know the full context of what he did?
I very much know the context. Even when he was on the Bulls, I thought he was kind of a cheesy dude. And it's just gotten worse since then.
But you got to at least appreciate him saying that the 2 quote-unquote best players on the Timberwolves other than him were such shit that he could take the third-string guys and beat them, and then did so.
And then immediately step off the court and do an interview with Rachel Nichols about it.
Yes.
That might have been one of the worst things I've seen this year.
It's just cheese. It's a cheesy way to live.
I just think that saying, I'm going to lock you down, you're not shit, you both need me, I'm so much better than you guys, and then them not stopping him.
And then, like literally doing it.
Yeah, and then doing it.
That is pretty nuts.
That was what was nuts, because the guy he was calling out is Karl Anthony Towns, and Towns is 7 feet tall. Like, one of the most offensively talented players in the league, and Jimmy Butler is a badass, but not. I did not think he could shut down a guy who had 4 or 5 inches on him and maybe 20 pounds, 30 pounds on him.
I will, too, like, the one thing that sort of bothers me the most about Sixers fandom, and I think this is an outgrowth of the process, is just this sort of constant need to sort of, like, tinker with the roster, like this constant need to seek these minute instrumental advantages at every single opportunity. It basically becomes change for the sake of change, such that people are now calling for the Ben Simmons trade already. That it's like him and Embiid will never work together. We need to move him now to improve the team. And you just want to be like, no, like, just relax. Like, things are fine. We have some time.
So where did you stand in the whole Brett Butler versus Jimmy Butler situation?
Brett Brown v. Jimmy Butler?
Brown, correct. Sorry.
Yeah, I just think, again, Jimmy Butler just seems like a tool, and he's doing toolish things. But Brett Brown just sort of enables this stuff because he's always just like, nah, it was my fault. I told Jimmy Butler to call me an asshole. It's fine. But, like, I heard a lot of speculation, too, about whether or not Brett Brown's a good coach. I don't know if I can answer that just yet, but it's not as if, like, they got rid of him. I'd be upset about it.
I will say that when you have Jimmy Butler and you're not changing your offensive and defensive schemes in response to getting Jimmy Butler, that, I think, is the weirdest thing of the current 76ers.
But, yeah, no, I agree with you that there needs to be more shifting, but Jimmy Butler needs to understand that he is Joel Embiid's backup. And I don't think he'll ever accept that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that unless Ben Simmons learns how to shoot.
Backup, but you guys got them.
Yeah. Unless Ben Simmons learns how to shoot, Jimmy's going to need to spot up more because you need to have – he's going to be basically slashing and spotting up because otherwise there's no space.
But I think there is a value to Ben Simmons versus Jimmy Butler because having the playmaker on your team – like, I would almost have a solid playmaker versus drama llama any day, any time of the day.
I mean, I just think that if you took Ben Simmons' minutes and gave them to Jimmy Butler, you'd probably have a better team in the short term.
But then I think when you enable Jimmy Butler, he's just going to complain, well, why don't I have as many minutes as Joel Embiid? And it's like, because you're not as good as Joel Embiid. Shut the fuck up and sit down.
I think the problem is not Ben Simmons. Jimmy Butler just wasn't the right player to begin with.
Yeah, like, he's not the ideal fit here.
Not to say that the trade was a mistake. It wasn't. Like, we can incorporate Jimmy Butler better than we are presently. Just things would have been a lot smoother with, let's say, Paul George, just based on style and temperament. And that's even excluding the massive jump Paul George has made this season.
Yeah, you really want a spot-up guy, a defensive guy, someone who's going to be okay with being off the ball. Exactly. Jimmy wants the ball in his hands more. But, I mean, I think the root of most of their problems is Ben Simmons can't shoot.
Yeah, I mean,
even a little bit.
Sure. I mean, really,
and Markelle Fultz is.
If we want to trade
so let's get the Pete status update. What is the prediction for you with what happened? What are the steps forward with Markelle Fultz?
He's going to get moved. They have to trade him. There's really no other option at this point.
But for who? For what?
Anything. Whatever they can get. If he succeeds, it's not going to be with the Sixers. There's not even an opportunity for them to rehab his value. They need to trade him and hope they can get a spot-up shooter of some sort.
So what would you be okay with Avery Bradley?
Let me look up Avery Bradley's stats. He's on the Pistons too, isn't he?
No, he is on the
Is he on the Clippers now? Yeah. I mean, if I remember the things Avery Bradley used to do.
Yeah, because I think that you're pretty much looking at like a fifth starter.
Yeah.
Like the top end of what you could expect from Markelle Fultz is like a fifth starter or a solid bench role player. I don't think, even though he was a former number 1 overall pick, I can't imagine that you end up
That's
with
irrelevant
a
at this
solid
point.
veteran. Yeah.
I would like to have Sweet Lou Williams back, just because I love Sweet Lou.
You need more than that.
But yeah, I don't think that's the one that's going to make it. It's not going to get it done.
No.
Although
I
miss him.
Oh,
everyone misses him. He dropped like 37. I was looking at box scores a day or two ago, and I saw that the Clippers won, and by a good margin. And I was looking at the starters' numbers, and it was like 10 points, 6 points, 7 points. I'm like, where are all the points? And then I slid all the way down. Sweet Lou had like 37.
That 2012 76ers team, go back and look at that roster. That might be one of my favorite teams that no one talks about, and like one of the most surprisingly good teams ever.
Yeah, this was it. The Clippers were playing against the Pistons. Tobias Harris, their starting lineup, 7 points, 0 points, 4, 14, 6. And then slide all the way down, Lou Williams, 39.
Yep. Sweet Lou will do that for you.
Yeah.
He probably gave up 36 on the other end, but...
Now he was plus 19.
All right, there you go, Sweet Lou.
So, Pete, what do you think is the postseason performance? Another second-round exit, or do you think can you envision a future where they can at least get into the Eastern Conference Finals?
Well, let's look at the standings. Let me see what their matchup would be right now. They'll definitely get out of the first round. I mean, I think that's pretty clear.
And I don't think that they're currently matched up against the Pacers. I do not think they're going to be playing against the Pacers.
No.
It'll probably be the Nets, I would guess.
I think they're fine.
They're fine in the first round, and then if they won in the first, let's say if everything goes chalk, they would play the Bucks in the next round.
Oh, that's murder.
Yeah, I don't think they get past the Bucks.
Yeah, that's a good matchup, I think. Both teams would be able to just play off of one guy, and then... Well, I don't know that there's anyone on the Bucks who can guard JoJo.
Maybe Giannis, but I mean, he'd be giving up, 40 pounds probably.
Yeah, and if you're putting him on Joel, then who's guarding Jimmy? Or Ben?
Or Simmons, yeah.
I think in an ideal world you'd put Giannis on Simmons because then you've got the size are roughly similar and you're pressuring the ball with your best defender.
Well,
but then you can't expect Brook Lopez to guard Joel Embiid.
I was going to say you put Lopez. But then again, I don't think you want JoJo guarding Brook Lopez on the other end either.
No, because then you just have Brook Lopez standing 5 feet beyond the three-point arc
just
bombing on him. Did you hear his new nickname, by the way?
No. What is it?
Splash Mountain.
That's good. That's a solid one. There aren't enough good nicknames in the NBA anymore.
Yeah.
As much as I like listening to this, I just want to point out it has been 12 years since I have seen my team make the playoffs, and Pete is complaining about a second-round exit.
I'm not complaining necessarily. In fact, I would sort of enjoy it. Again, returning to my point, I want the process to fail.
I'm just happy that the Bucks are doing it. I've been a fan of the Bucks, or at least of Giannis, and watching them play for like.
I thought you were going to say I've been following the Bucks since Monta Ellis.
No. Well, yeah. When Monte left, I was like, "Fuck the Warriors." All about the Bucks now.
Come on, that was a good, decent Bucks team.
It was, and Andrew Bogut for Monte Ellis. That was fair, but I just like that the Bucks managed to fall ass backwards into a legit team because for years they were just making win now moves that left them at like the 8 seed, and then Giannis just explodes, and now they have a team that makes sense. And Coach Bud, I think I said Popovich would be Coach of the Year, which he totally could be. Like, look at that roster, and they're 32-22. Like, they're going to make the playoffs again. Every year he should win it. But because he won't, I think Bud probably will.
Yeah, I picked
and
Bud.
It'll be deserved. Yeah. Like, Coach Bud turned that team from incoherent into, like, random bench guys are exploding for them in ways I didn't expect.
ZP.
DJ Wilson's a real player.
What?
ZP, sorry. While we're on the subject of the Kings, I'm looking up fun facts for the podcast. I noticed one that the Kings are supposedly the oldest franchise in the NBA. Does anybody care about that, like Kings fans?
Well, that's what the new logo is all about. It's the
Really?
blue, white, and the royal-looking lion logo, which is a great
The alt
logo. I
jersey.
love their street jersey. I'm thinking about buying it, but the baby blue with the red basketball in the center with the lion with the crown on top. That's the old Rochester Royals.
Yeah. I can see that. All right. Yeah, no, it's just I'd never heard that before. I was wondering if that was something that like Kings fans like knew and were proud of.
It's been a lot of, man, remember how good Tyreek Evans was with Boogie Cousin, remembering stuff?
He was not. He was not good.
But it was still,
he had a good rookie year.
he had a good rookie year, and then, hey, let's get two ball-dominant players on the same team that have zero chemistry, and then let's
Actively hate each other.
And then let's draft Robinson instead of Lillard, and that's going to be great. Although I will still, to my dying breath, defend the Sacramento Kings going out of their way to draft Jimmer Fredette, which I know is a weird thing to say, but your team going out of its way to draft what is objectively the player who had the single best college career, I don't blame them. I don't blame the Sacramento Kings for getting Jimmer. He had the single greatest senior year I've seen in the NCAA. Sure, why not? Most draft picks don't turn out that well.
The only problem with Jimmer is that he couldn't guard me. I don't think I watched him play defense. I watched him play a game with the Westchester Knicks, and I will never forget because that game, Jimmer Fredette was playing, and Money Mayweather was courtside. Floyd Mayweather was just eating a gigantic bag of popcorn because I guess one of his, like a guy he knew was on the Knicks roster, so he flew out from Vegas to watch this ridiculous game. And it was, I think, Jimmer's first game with the Westchester Knicks, and he lit it up for like 30. And there were multiple times where I was just watching him get diced up on back cuts, like him just not paying attention to his man that he was guarding even a little bit for even a second. And the whole time I'm just like, you're not going to make it to the NBA again if you play like this. Just basic shit, you know?
If you look at his offensive stats in college, though, he could have been Steph Curry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, their stats are comparable.
He had solid offensive stats, and he won the fucking NCAA championship, Gino. You draft the star player from the
Did he really?
That is what you do.
No, he didn't.
That is what you do.
He didn't.
Oh, no, wait,
he didn't win the
you're right.
championship.
But
First off, he
still.
didn't win the championship. Second off, the problem with Jimmer is that he doesn't have the quick trigger. He's not a great passer. So Steph, he takes that gravity that he has, that players just can't leave him for even a second. He never stops moving, and he's a great spot-up shooter. Jimmer needs the ball in his hands to do anything. Like, he's not an amazing spot-up shooter. He's, if anything, a little bit more powerful than Steph, but he's not he's not as quick, so he can't get himself open as much. He draws a few more fouls. And since he's not a great passer, he can't leverage that attention that he's getting quite as well. So he's really just, a 6-foot-tall shooting guard who's just out to get his.
Yeah, but how much of this is hindsight? You know what I mean?
Yeah, how much is this hindsight? Like, he had solid offensive stats. The Kings were trying to be an offensive powerhouse in a league that played no fucking defense in the first place. They had Boogie.
It's just his
they
defense.
had Tyreek.
Like, Steph is 6'3", right? Like, his measurables aren't bad. Like, he was skinny, but he wasn't slow-footed. Like, you can deal with that. You can grow into that.
I'm just saying that
Jimmer was always slow-footed.
I'm just saying that of the busts that my team has had, Jimmer is not the one.
This was not the worst bust.
Jimmer was not the one. Let's talk about Thomas Robinson.
Let's talk about Marvin Bagley.
No, fuck off.
Let's talk about the guy they just
Marvin
picked.
Bagley. We've talked about this before. Like, every single time that someone on Twitter tries to dunk on the Atlanta Hawks, like, oh man, you traded fucking for Trey for Luka Doncic. That was a big goof on your part. It's like, no, they didn't. They are trying to do something very specific. They executed it perfectly, and good on the Atlanta Hawks for staying true to their vision and giving Trae Young the minutes that he normally would get taken away from him.
Yeah, I am fine with what the Hawks did. They're not who I think is dumb. It's the Kings. They should have just taken Luka Doncic and said, you're not going to sign with us? You're not going to play with us? Fuck you. We don't believe you.
Or what they should have done was trade down.
Yeah, or trade down. Take the deal that Atlanta took, because Bagley would have been there. Oh, man. Yeah,
he's fine. He's okay.
He is. He is a capable backup big. He will maybe eventually become a nice Clint Capella-esque player. But the thing is, they took Clint Capella in the 20s and not at number 2. And when Clint Capella was picked, you didn't have the option of taking the most reliable, safest pick maybe in the history of the NBA draft since LeBron James with your pick. Who, I think that was a mistake. Maybe take the guy who's been playing with pros since he was 16 years old.
So why are you giving me shit and not fucking Sarver for going with DeAndre Ayton?
Oh, he was wrong too. But
no,
Ayton at least
come on.
is 7 feet tall.
DeAndre Ayton was actually a smart pick. Pick the homeboy, sell some tickets.
They're not going to sell tickets.
They are selling.
No one wants to see
DeAndre
the
Ayton
Suns.
pick.
Huh?
I don't dispute that pick. I think.
Oh yeah, look at them now. DeAndre Ayton is having the second best rookie season of this year.
Yeah,
but they could have had the guy who had the best rookie season.
But then they would have devalued their fucking draft picks.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that putting Doncic on your team just makes it so that you can't tank as hard. He's too good by himself.
And I just want to say to all the Dallas Maverick fans who are saying bench fucking Dirk because you want to win now, shut up.
They are benching him.
No. It's who would have... No.
They're not going to make the playoffs.
Let him play 20 minutes every game. God damn it.
Did you see that Dirk and Wade are going to be in the All-Star game?
Yeah, I like how they made an exception so as that they didn't take up slots for rookies and better players.
Wait, they're just grandfathering them in?
Yes.
Yeah, they just added them for their last All-Star games.
I like that. I think that's fine. But again, it just shows how worthless the All-Star game is.
Oh, totally. It's a worthless thing. It's ridiculous that people look at it and think, oh, this matters.
But at the same time, I don't want to do what the MLB, what baseball did for the longest time, which is have the All-Star game pick who has home court advantage during the NBA.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't want the fans to get a vote. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't like democracy?
No. Not in this case.
Oh, yeah. Wait, what? No. Power to the people, Pete. What happened to that? What happened to – who cares if Derrick Rose was the top 5 vote getter?
Well, this is just another case where capitalism has ruined it.
No,
See,
it's not capitalism.
By instituting
it's not Drake's fault that whenever he says, let's coalesce the
games.
entire nation of Canada around this one random player on the Raptors.
No, I'm saying that the All-Star game – my problem with the All-Star game is that the remuneration of the players, because they're controlled by management, is based on the All-Star game. And if we're going to have a fan vote, that doesn't make any sense. So it's another case of management holding down the worker.
Fair enough. Well, I think, if anything, we know that James Dolan is the best example of why there should be a wealth tax and an estate tax.
He's just
and why?
Man.
Yeah, he is a living example of why wealth should not be passed down from one generation to the next
I think
necessarily.
All the Knicks fans need to buy his CDs. So he will give up the team. And
oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot he is a shitty musician. I totally forgot.
James Dolan and the Straight Shot.
No, JD and the Straight Shot. You say it right.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right,
man.
I think that is enough NBA discussion for one pod. It has been an eventful few days. The trade deadline's coming up.
Thank God.
Last closing thoughts here. Is there one trade you would like to see happen? One player you'd like to see moved and who to? You don't have to have all the specifics.
I'll say it again. As I said before, I want to see Kemba Walker on a team worth a fuck.
That's not happening.
I don't care. You asked me for the trade I would most want to see.
That's fair.
And if Michael Jordan actually wants to have the reputation of being the frugal business person, trade Kemba Walker when his stock value is at its all-time high. Fuck. Give Kemba Walker – free Kemba Walker. Hashtag this. Make this trending. Free Kemba Walker.
I'd support that one. I'd like to see Bradley Beal get moved because I think he's very good and he could help somebody. I don't know what the trade would be. My ideal trade would be for Boston to trade Kyrie just because I think it'd be funny, and then they could try to make a trade for Anthony Davis once Kyrie's contract was off the books. But then AD would never re-sign with him because him and Kyrie are best friends.
Yeah.
It would make me laugh.
Did you see that Anthony Davis's dad, what he said about why he doesn't want him to go to Boston? It's like, they treated IT so bad. It's like, if I have the option between a hurt IT and Kyrie Irving, IT can fucking pick trash through the dumpster for all I care.
That's what separates the Celtics from the Pelicans. Like, that's why he's leaving the Pelicans. They wouldn't do something like that.
Well, for me, I would like to see Mike Conley traded to either the Jazz or the 76ers.
He would be a great fit on the Sixers.
He'd be a great fit on either of those teams, I think. We need to get him the hell out of Memphis.
Yeah.
And I think that the Jazz just really need a second creator to get some pressure off of Donovan Mitchell, and I think they have the assets to actually do a deal if they wanted to. And I think that the 76ers also need someone. You know, C.J. McConnell's cute. It's really cool that he gets to play, but you don't want that come playoff time. So I think that, and I would like to see if you could get Marc Gasol onto the Spurs with his brother. That would be great.
That'd be cool, the Gasol Hermanos.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Marc Gasol, like, they could use a center, I think, to help out Aldridge. The only other places I could see Marc Gasol making sense are, like, the Bucks, maybe.
I mean, they already have Brook Lopez. Like, Gasol would definitely be an upgrade, but he's in a lot of ways the same. Yeah,
but I think that Gasol is just a little bit stouter, and come playoff time, you're going to need someone to line up with JoJo.
He's one of the stoutest men in the league.
Yeah. So I think that just getting a guy who does 90% of what Brook Lopez does, except also is a borderline defensive player of the year candidate.
I would see two Gasols and DeMar DeRozan play. I would watch that.
Sure.
Yeah, because we know that Memphis is going to probably trade both of those players, or try to, because they're terrible.
So they, on Basketball Reference, they have Marc Gasol listed at 255 pounds.
What a joke.
That can't possibly be right.
No. I'm sorry, I've looked at him.
He's not 255.
It would be funny to see who they have listed as the heaviest player in the league. Who would admit
That's a good question.
that they were the heaviest player in the league? Well, that, I think, is it for this episode of Balls Deep. So thank you, Pete.
Always a pleasure. I do like it when we get a little shift and get to talk a little b-ball.
Thank you, ZP.
I'm here to slam the ball into the hoopy net and then cut it with scissors when I'm victorious.
Thank you, listeners. Reminder, if you want to get in touch with the show, you can do so at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We've got our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. Till next time, peace!